I step into worship, he's always there. And I can experience his glory just like that. And that in and of itself overwhelms me. Even now I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because our nature, it's a religious thing, is, well, I haven't met with you here, and there. I'm just barely, just like tapping on your door, and you're like,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the most recent episode of Open Waters, which is number...
I don't know.
You don't know?
Why do we do this every time?
Because I'm usually the one trying to get the episode number, but this time I asked you. I thought you might know. It is episode 24.
Hey, perfect.
And we just got done kind of like with almost a series of like talking about revival.
Mm-hmm.
What have you thought about that?
I mean, it's something that I'm constantly in pursuit of. I want more. I want more. I want more.
Yeah.
And so I think we can't get tired of talking about that. I think it was very inspirational. I think Asbury Revival sparked that conversation and Jesus Revolution movie, and I'm very happy that we had it. What do you guys think as listeners? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know what you guys have thought of the different little, I don't want to say series, but pretty much a series of episodes on revival. It's not honest. We don't like those ones. We didn't choose like those previously. We kind of were just like, God's still speaking on revival. So here we are. That's our goal, is just to listen, right?
Yeah.
That's our job. His job is to show up. So
totally.
Well, usually we do a more about us section. We've done a lot of more about us. It's like 24 episodes in.
Yeah.
And so
think that's enough?
I don't know.
Think we should do more?
Might as well.
Might as well.
If we do 100 episodes, I think once we hit our 100th, then we can call it.
Okay. Would you rather bungee jump?
No.
Or swim with the sharks?
Swim with the sharks? No.
Oh.
Bungee jump. I would rather bungee jump without the cord.
What?
Just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. That was a joke. I would never swim with sharks. That's the dumbest thing you could have done.
Even if you're in a cage?
I don't care. Have you seen 21 Feet Under, I think it is?
Well, our friend Savory did it.
Is she alive?
She's alive.
I haven't seen her.
She's alive. I saw her just a week ago. It might have been a
decoy.
Fake. It's a decoy. Okay.
AI is getting crazy, isn't it?
Right?
That's
totally.
Insane. But
very realistic.
Which one would you rather do?
I would.
I know what your answer is, but
I actually, if it were parachuting, jumping out of a plane, I would do that.
It is.
Over diving with the sharks, but I probably would do the water with the sharks.
Water with the sharks? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If Dan was there, I would enjoy to see that.
Dan doesn't know how to swim.
That's okay.
Not okay.
He's in a cage.
Then he would be flapping around, drawing attention to himself. Okay.
Sharks would be like, look at, what is this guy?
What is he doing?
What is he doing?
What is that meal over there?
That is so funny.
You just hit him in the nose. Boom. Just touch him in the nose.
Everybody says that, but it's like, how like fast they are when they're like aggressive?
Yeah, but I mean, the number of shark attacks versus car accidents, hello.
That's true. It's true. But you're purposely going into a shark tank, essentially. You're going to see sharks. That's like literally
but you're in a
the
cage.
Activity. Oh, I don't know. That's not... anyway,
it's not
guys,
your thing. Got it.
Okay,
what's our
in
topic?
Your minds, if you're with somebody in the car right now, I just want to say, answer that question to them. Tell them which one you would do, Like,
we're interactive on Open Waters Worship Podcast.
Let them know how afraid of sharks you are, like I am, or how much you'd rather be with the sharks than be attached to a rubber cord.
Swimming with the sharks.
Letting gravity take the wheel. So, dude, there was a video I saw.
What?
Actually, of somebody bungee jumping. It was over water. And
I saw it too.
She went fully extended, and as she was like, got to like the surface of the water, snapped. And I was like,
I saw that too.
And now you know why I don't bungee jump. I would rather go squirrel shooting. I mean, like squirrel shooting is what I'm saying. That was the biggest.
Okay, let's move on to our topic today, Josiah.
Anyway.
Okay, what is our topic today, Josiah? You wanted to surprise me, so I'm ready and willing for this challenge.
And so I think we talked about this just briefly a little bit, and it's about the glory.
Oh.
And there's a lot of different definitions of like the glory. I think a lot of churches have different when the glory comes, they have different thoughts on what happens when the glory shows up. Our church is one that believes in miracles for today, so that's a part of the glory for us, because the glory of God, it's like evidence that his presence is there, you know what I'm saying? And that comes with signs and wonders. But other churches don't think that. So when the glory shows up, this is kind of like the introductory question, is like,
Okay.
I'm jumping ahead of myself actually a little bit, is what is the glory to you?
Well,
yeah.
I just looked it up.
She just looked it up while I was asking that question. She's like, man,
So,
I don't know, so I got to look it up.
I heard only half of it. No.
No, I'm
so,
just
so I know that the word for glory, his glory, is in Hebrew. It was called the Shekinah.
Shekinah
And
glory.
I think we might have talked. I think this is the part we might have talked about, but it's mentioned several places, and it really is referring to the presence of God. And it's God is always with us, right? He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He lives inside of us. He is everywhere all at once. It's just he's outside of time. He's everything. Okay. So, but there is this time when you feel and experience him in a very manifest, like you'll hear manifest presence. That means you feel all of your five senses are keenly aware that he's there. Like so many other times, you're just going about your life, doing your thing, going through the motions, but it's when you can't do that. When your body responds, when your spirit responds, when your emotions respond, and you
say the word that is one more time.
Shekinah. And so, and this kind of in the Bible, it included the time when Moses was at the burning bush, when the cloud rested on him, when he was getting the 10 Commandments. And so a lot of times you'll also hear the glory referred to as fire, or, a cloud or rain or things like that. So, because also a lot of times when you feel his glory, when you feel his manifest presence, when you feel Shekinah in Hebrew, you are feeling hot. Like, okay, for instance, I was with my friend walking on the trail nearby our house. And, I pray for people all the time for healing, but I don't feel like I'm gifted with the gift of healing. I think that we're supposed to, God says signs and wonders will follow those who believe. And he talks about healing, and he did healing. So, and the church did, there was healing that was a testimony to the reality of who God is. And so I really pushed into that, even though I don't feel like I have the gift of healing. So we were walking on the trail, and a lady happened to stop us, and she was asking about my dog. I had my golden retriever with me, and she's just like, she's so beautiful. What kind of dog is she? And I told her, I said, she's a golden retriever. She goes, I thought so. I have a golden doodle. And then she said, my friends told me I shouldn't even be out riding this bike because I was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I just was like, she said that right as she was getting ready to drive off. So as she was riding off on her bike, I said, well, I'm praying in Jesus' name that you are healed of Parkinson's. And then as soon as I said that, I just felt like his Shekinah, his presence. I was so keenly aware of his glory, and I felt it all over my body, and I felt hot. And it's like you felt that virtue. You felt that his presence right there, right then. And I was like, wow. And my friend that was with me, she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, do you feel that? She's like, I have chills all over me. And I think for me, that's what my experience has been. Sometimes I've fallen on my face. Sometimes I've bowed down. Sometimes I've knelt. Sometimes I've wept. Sometimes I've laughed. Sometimes I feel hot, So sometimes I feel like a rain of refreshing has hit me. And I think those are all ways that I would describe the glory.
Yeah. Hey there, sorry for the interruption. Just wanted to say, if you haven't already, rate and reviewed this podcast. It would mean the absolute world to us if you could rate and review and share this with somebody you know. That way we can get the word out and we can help other people dive deeper into God's open waters. Now let's get back to the podcast. A lot of them are just like, when I think of the glory, it's it was the thing that Jesus, died for us to have access to. It was the Holy of Holies is where the glory of God was kept. Back in the day. The Israelites followed all of Exodus they followed his glory through the desert, which is kind of, it's so weird to me, is like, is, yes, they didn't get into the promised land, but they had to act. They followed the glory. Like they knew where they were going because they were following the provider. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Although he did make them wait because of ignorance and pride, and or more like a distrust in him. It's like they were still following the glory.
Mm-hmm.
So they were still doing what God told them to do,
Yeah.
even through all the times of disbelief. But that's not where I'm trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, so the glory that they were chasing, essentially, we have access to 24/7 nowadays, and that's because of Jesus. And so, for me, it's like there's the glory is this thing that we strive after, and we really should. There's a lot of different things that we strive after. We strive after performance. We strive after signs and wonders. But what we really should be going after is the glory, because that's what God died for us to have access to, right?
Well, yeah, and I feel like it's him.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he's already here. He's already in you. You're in him, but it's like you're diving in and you're acknowledging and you're allowing you as a triune being, body, mind, and spirit, to fully be aware of his presence. And so I think, yeah,
it's awesome. And the only reason we're allowed is because, Jesus became the high priest. The Holy Spirit's inside of us, and we're allowed into that Holy of Holies place to dwell in his. We don't die like the high priest of old. We actually get to stand, fall down, and weep in front of God. It's awesome. And so the glory for me is like this, I don't know. And I'm trying my best to not explain this with feelings. And that the reason behind that is because for me, it's going to feel different than what other people experience in the presence of God. And that's because he knows how to meet me where I'm at. Sure. And he's going to be unique for everybody.
Sure.
And like, I don't know, it's really cool that he does that. But I think there are some things that are similar for everybody, and that is that it happens through really deep connection with him. And it's obvious, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And so give me a second, because I'm trying to describe it without using feelings. It's hard. So
yeah, no, it's good. I like it, because there are different types of people. I mean, there are people who won't even say they feel, they think, or they know, or they sense. So I think it's good to think of other ways to try to communicate, and so that they can relate and connect.
Yeah. I think one of them is just looking, if you can, I go to my church, New Creation Church, and there's just some points where you just know that we've accessed the glory.
Yeah.
And that's because you can look across a room and you can see nobody's looking around. I think one thing that, without being a feeling, is that when you don't care about the opinions of others while you're worshiping, that's when you've hit the glory.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking around and caring about the opinions of others. Your only encounter is just the glory's in front of us. I'm going to take as much as I can.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, although the glory is there, is they really try sometimes you have to try to avoid the glory. Because the glory is this presence, and you just get exposed to it, but you have to try, and you have to be ignorant of it to not get into the glory when it's provided to you. So just looking around and being able to see everybody going after one thing, the glory's there.
Yeah. One of the most powerful times where I experienced the glory of God was, I've been to Bethel. I've been in Benny Hinn services. I've just had the opportunity to be around a lot of places where his presence is so free to be in the room. But one of the times where I felt it most was I did this walk to Emmaus, and it was probably about 14, 15 years ago. And it was with a Presbyterian Methodist church. Now they've kind of changed some of their beliefs, but what was amazing is it's a long story, but at the end, you have people that have done the walk before that come there, and they just like love on you. And I saw the glory of the Lord on their faces and felt it. And it was like liquid love. And it broke me. I wept because it was like, and there's a verse that talks about if you've it has something to do with something you've seen the face of God. Like if you, something about somebody else, like, and you've seen the face of God. I'm going to have to look up that scripture verse. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've seen the face of God, which I think is, I'm thinking the song that's ringing around in my head, and we've done it a little bit, and I think we might do it at the next Open Waters, is, Moses stood on the mountain waiting for God to pass by. He was seeking his face. And I think that's what I think that's one of the ways, is just like glory. You see it's like, you can't see it literally, but it's like you sense that this is liquid love that you're seeing expressed through other people. And it's like you're seeing the face of God. I can't explain it, but it was one of the most intense, and they are not charismatic or, that kind of a thing. And yet his presence was so there.
That's so awesome.
In a way that I could barely stand. It was beautiful. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. I think I agree with that statement that, when Moses went up to the mountain, like we do sing that song a little bit, but it's a great song. I think when I'm in my private time, my goal is to reach the glory to where my face shines like Moses's did, because he met with the glory. And so I talked to Manuel. He has his own podcast. It's called The Worshiping Musician. Give him a little plug there. It's awesome if you haven't listened to it. He is like one of probably the most studious people in music and worship I've ever known. And he's awesome. And so I was telling him that's like, what I want. And he's just like, yeah, that's what musicians should be striving after is, and the only reason I'm connecting this to worship is because this is Open Waters worship. And if you guys didn't know, we do a worship night every second and fourth Saturday. And musicians should be striving after the glory so that we can come down from the mountain like Moses. Not saying we're Moses or a prophet or anything, but we should have private time with God where our faces are on fire, like literally shining because we met with the glory. And then we should in turn be able to bring other people into the presence, into the glory, and then have their faces shine out to the world. And so that's our goal at Open Waters. Is we really want people to be lit on fire. We want people to meet with the glory so that they have something to talk about to others. And then it just, it'll spread because so the people, when they see your face shine, and it doesn't have to be a physical shine, obviously. That's a whole another topic, but it's like they just know something's different with you. And that's because they're getting drips of the glory that are coming off of you. It's like the overflowing oil. It's coming out of your cup into theirs. And so, yeah. That's
awesome, Josiah.
What were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm just looking up. I am trying to look up.
She's trying to find that verse.
Yeah.
There was a sermon by Jeremy Riddle on the glory that I want to reference a little bit. And he talks a lot about CCM, which if you don't know what that means, it's Christian contemporary music. And it's where, if you think about people like Toby Mac and Phil Wickham and a lot of different singers and artists, Maverick City is like a pretty large one right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they get into Christian contemporary music, will get very showy. Yeah. Where it becomes less about the glory, less about meeting God, and more about ministering to people. And I actually talked to somebody recently about this. More like had a quick discussion about it over text message, and it was just one of those things where it's like I got kind of, I don't want to say like offended, but a little bit. It like kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. But then I listened to this sermon by Jeremy Riddle, and I was like, oh man, that makes a lot of sense. And so it's not like we need to stop ministering to people with having excellent service, excellent worship. It's just we need to go back to what we should be focusing on, and that's the glory of God, meeting with His presence, meeting with Him, which I think we've gotten way too far into. Yeah. And yes, we need to have outreach with our music, right? We have to have an avenue for people to have outreach to, like an extended hand to them through music. That is a way of evangelism, but I think not all our music needs to be evangelism. Right. A lot of it should, even if through the evangelism, it should still be about the glory, right?
Right.
Worship is worship no matter what avenue it is. And so I guess in putting it relatively harshly is just like, if it's not going to be going after the glory like it should be, I don't think it should be there. And so Jeremy Riddle kind of was on the same page. He was just like, he was a part of the CCM whole thing for a while. He actually got pretty into it. And he said, it was like, I'm just not that person. I could not fit their criteria of, singing this song. And when that's done, sing this song. I'll sing the chorus, verse, and then I'll be done with the song. Yeah. That to me sounds like it sounds terrible to have like a set to do like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to have an exact order and then we're going to be done. We're going to cut.
That's how almost all worship services are in most churches.
How many holy moments are you trampling over when you do that? It's like when God, because that God puts, no matter how gifted you are in music or how well you perform, he's going to like sprinkle in holy moments in there. And if you have a schedule to keep up to, you're going to be trampling over those moments. And it's sad to see so many churches do that.
Well, it's just not making the space and place for him to move and for us to experience his manifest presence and his Shekinah. I think I just want to add to what you're saying. I don't know if it was funny because I remember hearing him talk about in this one teaching that he was teaching to pastors, actually, because he was talking about, if the pastors don't really worship and allow for the space of his glory and for those kinds of things, the church won't go there. Even if the worship pastor is trying to push for that, it will not go there. There has to be, pastors have to really truly live out and exemplify those things for the body. I mean, it's not to say there aren't pockets of people who are going to follow through, but if you want your church as a whole to really experience that, the pastor has to, buy into that,
and
so to speak.
What I like, I really vibe with that, mainly because, and I don't mean to say vibe like a stoner or anything, but I really do think it's important to have the spearhead aligned, because when you don't have your worship and you don't have your pastor aligned, it's like trying to shoot an arrow at a target that's the other way. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so if your pastor is saying and doing one thing, and he's teaching on the glory, but we're focused on exalting the church. Right. How is that going to line up? It's because we're not meeting with the glory as the pastor's teaching about the glory. Right. We should be singing about the glory when the pastor's teaching about the glory. We should be singing about prophecy and stuff like that, and glorifying God through our prophecy, which is still the glory, because God's going to give us those in his presence and in his glory. Yeah. But honestly, it's just everything revolves around the glory. So
I was going to say too, one of the things Jeremy Riddle had talked about in that same sermon, is that it really made me laugh, and all of you worship leaders out there will probably relate to this. But at Bethel, where he really learned from Bill Johnson how to just push into the glory, they would not just, it wasn't like, we're going to sing these songs and then, like you said,
cut it off.
He said, he had his whole list, and he was so thankful that Pastor Bill wasn't there, because he got through all the songs and was like,
I don't know what we're doing.
Because they will wait until the glory is there. They'll sing until the glory comes. And then when the glory comes, they don't just rush by it and push through it and move on. It's like they linger there, which is, what does the Bible say? I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It talks about dwelling and watching the train of his robe, gazing upon his beauty, and watching the train of his robe fill and fill and fill and fill and fill and fill and fill the temple. It's not just those are really analogies of when you're in his presence, when you're in his glory, you're gazing upon his beauty. The train of his robe is his presence. It's there's lots of stuff on that, but it's a dwelling place. I'm going to dwell in the house of the Lord. I mean, there's so much. And so
I just want to take a quick second and ask you, sorry if you're not done yet.
No, I was just going to say, as a worship leader, I think I thought a lot about that. What is it like to be up there and be, well, we're done.
It probably sucks. I mean,
what do we do now? But then it's just, that's great, because you get to the end of yourself. Some of the best moments I've had, and where the glory has come, is when I have gotten to the end of myself.
It's no longer a performance.
Yes.
You're having to rely on your supplier
Mhm.
rather than your own supply.
Yep.
And so that's a really big part of like, reaching the glory is just like, if you can just start with nothing, realizing that you actually don't have anything when you get up there to perform air quotes.
Right.
You do realize that, oh, I actually get to just worship.
Yeah.
And I get to help people into the glory.
Yeah.
And it's his job to show up.
Mhm.
It's not my job to make him show up.
That's
I can't make God move.
No way.
He chooses to come
That's
and
right.
meet us, which is
We can't manipulate him.
so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to ask, like, how many, like, is there a time that you can remember just trampling over a holy moment?
Me?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because I know,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I believe I know one, like, for me, a lot of the time I struggle with if it's not my song, I won't sing. And I'm like, so when I'm in the drum cage, I'm like, some things sound like I've got a really musical ear, so I'll be able to hear different things. But I'm like, maybe we should build here, or maybe we shouldn't do that. And I can realize sometimes that like I've just done the complete wrong thing, and it's like, I should have built here because God was really just bringing up like a powerful movement right here. He wanted to do something like that. I've got more examples, but that's just like a really, really quick one. But do you have any?
For me, and this is, you're gonna be like, oh, I think maybe I'm that's my own judgments coming out, but I feel like I have not pushed into some holy moments because that has not been supported, because I have more often than not, I've actually not been on a worship team. Oh yes, I have. When I lived in Nixa, Missouri, and we were in revival, there I could push into revival, but I was not in a position of actually
not really
leadership. I was a background singer or in the choir, that kind of a thing. But and it wasn't like there wasn't any encouraging of the background singers to sing out or different things like that. So anyway, but I would say yes, there were lots of, I've had experience after experience after experience after experience, but I wasn't leading.
You weren't the one leading.
I would say, but here, before we think I'm all holier than thou,
no.
I think the time where I plow through holy moments or miss opportunities to step into his glory is in my private time. Because and it's so crazy because the minute I step into worship, he's always there. And I can experience his glory just like that. And that in and of itself overwhelms me. Even now I'm getting emotional thinking about it, because I think, because our nature, it's a religious thing, is, well, I haven't met with you here, and there. I'm just barely, just like tapping on your door, and you're like, you're here. And it always overwhelms me because I'm thinking it's based on my worthiness.
I just laugh at that. I can think of like a small child, like going up to their parents' door and like them just opening it before you even touch the door.
Yeah.
And it's like,
oh,
what do you need? What do you need? I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
yeah. So, and it's almost like it's more than just opening the door. It's like you go to touch the door and like there's this flood that comes at you, and it's a good flood. It's not a bad flood. And it's just, so I feel like those are the times that I have missed many holy moments. And those are the times when I tend to rush through. But I think if you don't have those holy moments and you don't experience Shekinah in his presence in those moments, maybe you can do it in public, but that you're only going to go so far, in the public. And that would be, I feel, more performance, or, it could be God's mercy for a time and grace, but there's so much more. There could be so much more.
Yeah. For me, more specific, I'm not sure which week this was, but a lot of the time when I'm doing open waters, I get really exhausted because I've set up, I've worked hard to get the night to where it is. And I'm not saying it's coming, you know what I'm saying, is like it takes physical work to get everything set up. So it's not like I rely on God to show up, but sometimes it's just like, man, I am so tired. My back hurts. Everything is cramping up right now while I'm playing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe we should just end.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes that I've just been like, okay, we'll finish.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like there's just times where we'll stay after, like people will stay after and linger. And I think that's because the glory is still here. It's just I ended worship early.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry for missing out, God,
Yeah. Or
Sorry for missing that
sometimes
chance.
it's okay. That's just a different form of worship. The fellowshipping together and talking and eating food and like we do and, and praying for one another and, just connecting. That's worship.
The prayer thing is like, God will show up in his prayer. Like when we pray, there's sometimes we'll break out in prayer and we'll be praying for people. And I do really truly believe there's radical help. I mean, that's being given. So yeah, there's a lot of times, I could reference because I've been doing this quite a while. But I don't know how much I want to be exposed. So, but we're not holy. We're not like we're saying this never happens to us. There's tons of times we've done it.
No, I think it's important to expose it so other people can learn from it and be vulnerable or transparent.
It's like seeing like a Bethel church mess up on their music or it's like, oh, they do it too. It's like they're not perfect. That's awesome.
Right. So before we head out, I just want to remind you that there is no open waters worship this Saturday. Do not come here because no one will be here. You're welcome to, be in your car and do it like you just a cappella worship outside, but nobody will be here as far as like for worship. We do have people that will be here, but there's no worship that will be happening. And so we just want to remind you of that. I'm sorry. We are sorry for the late notice if you didn't already know this, but we will both be otherwise engaged. So
so make sure you stick around though, because this is only part 1 of this episode. And I want you guys to make sure you stay intrigued, stay in the glory. And we'll be catching you next week or in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, you'll hear more about the glory.
The glory. All right. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.